All right, we're live coding. Let's put on my backdrop. Okay. What's up? How you doing? I'm coding. How you guys up to? What's up, Tracy? So I'm coding out an environment for this guy right here. That's 0102. That's me, 012, right? Yeah, I don't look. This is the blockchain. See all the blockchains? This is Open Beneficial AI. Obey. Open Beneficial AI. It's from 2019. So Open Beneficial AI is AI that is entangled with its future state. So I'm building out on GitHub a solution for AI to basically be my digital twin. Anyway, what are you guys up to? What's Tracy up to?
You're not going to believe what happened. Tell me everything. I'll show you on Monday.com. So I started the biggest initiative of the quarter.
All right, check it out. I want to waste no time, and I want to show you this 60-second video that perfectly encapsulates how Donald Trump operates in a harmful and evil way when it comes to immigration in particular. The words of the president matter, and friend of the show, Madeline Somerville, breaks this down while talking to Tommy Lauren. Check this out.
You think that President Trump is an evil person?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah. And so, you heard how reasonable I was about the rest of this.
So what about him do you think makes him evil?
So the thing that I can't get back from is that he has spent the last maybe 12 years repeating every single time, and I'm a jury consultant, so I know the value of repetition in terms of persuasion, that illegal immigrants, and every single time that I've ever seen him say the word immigrant, I tried to find other ones. He said that they're rapists, murderers, criminals from mental institutions, they're emptying their prisons out, and he has, I will never believe otherwise as somebody who studies this, that he has created a cognitive association for people with immigrant and criminal.
Wait. Illegal immigrant.
No, he said every time he says the word immigrant, it doesn't matter whether it's illegal or immigrant.
You realize he's married to an immigrant?
Yeah.
And has been married to immigrants?
Yeah.
And JD Vance is, married to an Indian woman?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
So you think that he says that immigrants, just in general, immigrants, you hear it as he thinks immigrants are rapists and murderers and from mental institutions.
I think he would deny that. I think he has linguistically manipulated people into creating that association to where it can't be undone, to where now when he's revoking like TPS protections from immigrants who are here legally, that it's easier for us to watch them be deported and go, well, they're all criminals and rapists and murderers. Percentage of illegal immigrants who are even arrested, not even convicted of violent crimes is like a fraction of 1%. For Trump to go out of his way constantly to characterize an entire group of people for whom there's less than 1% of them who are like that, to constantly say, you're rapists, you're murderers, you're criminals, you know what you're doing. You know exactly what you're doing, which is dehumanizing this group of people and falsely characterizing them so people will think that.
That's probably the best I've heard the argument presented as to why Donald Trump's rhetoric surrounding immigration is incredibly harmful. Yeah. I really like how when Tommy asks a few parts, she's like, you realize his wife is an immigrant. You realize J.D. Vance's wife is an immigrant. Madeline doesn't get shaken up. She's like, yeah. And then she continues to push her argument forward by basically saying, yeah, he creates this association despite being married to an immigrant. It's messed up. And people are noticing. Now, this brings me on to Joe Rogan.
Joe
Rogan is beginning to open his eyes rapidly, which leads me to ask the question, were your eyes not open when they were holding up mass deportation now signs at the RNC? Trump's entire campaign was predicated on this violent, rapid deportation of millions and millions of people. He said it over and over. Now, people on podcasts are going, wait a minute, he actually meant the deportations? Or what about when Trump said he was going to put tariffs on all countries? And now people on the podcast are like, wait a minute, he's actually putting tariffs on all the countries? Maybe if you actually listen to him. But I want to play this clip of Joe Rogan. I know a lot of people get mad when I play him, but it's important to use him as an indicator for where millions and millions of Americans are. And right now, the indicator is showing that Trump has overstepped very, very quickly with immigration. Before I play this clip, I just want to say I love the community that we built. It means the world to me. And actually, the Adam Mockler YouTube channel.
Articles they don't like. Yeah, and then they're kicking students out that like write articles they don't like.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Isn't a university supposed to be a place where someone's allowed to express themselves?
Joe Rogan.
And have
non-violently?
Yeah. They're writing something down and they're not calling for violence either. And they're getting challenged. That's supposed to be how it happens. You get challenged, smarter people have better arguments, or your argument stands.
Right, discourse.
Yes.
It's supposed to be a place for discourse.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And deporting people because you don't like who they're criticizing, like that gets kind of shifty.
All right.
That gets kind of shifty. Joe Rogan finally waking up, dude. Kind of shifty. What's up, Jazz? It's kind of annoying. This shit's just like taking forever. Something's happening.
I'm getting kind of sick of these MAGA podcast bros or comedians coming to the sudden realization once every single week now that this administration is overstepping. Throughout the entire election, they ran defense, they normalized it, they would downplay the extremism of the Republican Party. Now, once a week, they come out like, can you believe the extremism of the Republican Party? Who could have guessed that the administration who held up mass deportation now signs, passed out these signs of the RNC, actually wants to enact violent mass deportations? And listen, this is a needle that I've threaded in past videos about Joe Rogan and other podcast bros. I really think it would be harmful to completely shut them down, isolate them, and never interact with them. For example, James Tallarico went on Joe Rogan's podcast, and it aired just like last week, like 10 days ago, and it made waves. James Tallarico is now very well respected and is a rising leader in the party. It's important to go into these spaces. I don't want to shut down these spaces, but at some point, Joe Rogan has to be... held accountable, has to have some sort of self-awareness for what he ushered in.
Yeah.
Now, some people still talk about Joe Rogan in a weird way, like he's Stephen Miller. Like, I saw this one email. People email me a lot when I cover Joe Rogan. And it was like, Adam, I can't believe you'd platform a Nazi like Joe Rogan. You're no better than that. I'm like, holy, chill. Joe Rogan has a lot of flaws and has fallen down the right-wing rabbit hole, but he is rather indicative of how the average bro in America feels. Like, when Joe Rogan begins to say this deportation shit's too far, a lot of people are feeling that way. He's a barometer for how a lot of people feel, and these are the facts. He has like tens of millions of listeners. He's only rivaled by the Midas Touch podcast and other things. He has tens of millions of listeners, more than any late night host, more than any cable television show. This podcast is massive due to the accessibility of it. So it's important to be covering cultural points like this, no matter how many angry emails people send me. Here's another clip of Joe Rogan a few weeks back.
These are fucking nuts, man. Watching this protest on television, it's like...
Do the raids are nuts? The
all of it.
Yeah.
I think both
Protest
sides are
nuts,
taking it a little
the
too
raids
hard.
are- Well, I don't think if the Trump administration, if they're running and they said, we're going to go to Home Depot and we're going to arrest all the people at Home Depot, we're going to go to construction sites and we're going to just like tackle people at constructions. I don't think anybody would have signed up for that.
Again, I'm so sick of this game that they're playing where he's just absolutely astounded that this administration could ever do this. He's like, what?
ICE raids are fucking nuts, man.
They are just wild, man. Who could have ever known? Dude, we knew that this was going to happen. And yes, people did vote for this. A massive portion of right-wingers in America want this authoritarian policy. They want this policy. Joe is just being naive.
They said, we're going to get rid of the criminals and the gang members first, right? And now we're seeing like Home Depots get raided.
We said throughout the election 100 times, maybe if Joe Rogan would have had any liberals on his podcast, we said throughout the election 100 times, you can't do mass deportations of 10 million people without necessarily deporting everyday workers, accidentally deporting even citizens, which we've seen time and time again. It is absolutely sickening, and, we need to call this stuff out. I do think it's worth going on this platform because there are tens and tens of millions of listeners, and a lot of people listen to Joe Rogan, whether we like it or not. Now, here's a funny comment that I got on the last Joe Rogan episode. Someone sent this to me. It says, I find it kind of ridiculous to say it's, quote, normal to listen to Joe Rogan. Like, that kind of rhetoric normalizes him. You wouldn't say it's normal to like Trump, even though he has more fans than Joe Rogan. I don't agree with this comment. This comment is like kind of weirdly, morally finger waggy, or it tries to be morally superior. The reality is, it is normal to listen to Joe Rogan. We're not like better. The person writing this comment is not like morally superior or better or just a better human being than the 30 million people who listen to Joe Rogan. And it is normal to listen to Joe Rogan. It's really weird to isolate or alienate people like that en masse. You could make a way more accurate comment like, listen, Joe Rogan is uniquely impressionable and prone to falling down conspiratorial rabbit holes. People who listen to him are probably also uniquely conspiratorial and tend to agree with what Joe Rogan says, meaning they can often fall for how he's being impressionable. But to say that, like, don't normalize listening to Joe Rogan, I'm gonna finger wag in your face, these type of comments sometimes just bother me. I don't even listen to Joe Rogan, and I would never defend the conspiracy.
Don't start your day with a gross piece of plastic in your hand. Adding to the 4 billion plastic toothbrushes that get thrown away each year, here's a much better way to start your day. Begin your morning with Suri's award-winning aluminium design, plant-based heads, a dentist-approved deep sonic clean, and a battery that goes 40 days between charges.
Because the Jeffrey Epstein uproar and the heat on Donald Trump is only growing. His own failed secrecy efforts, the haphazard and at times bizarre responses, and the attempts to dodge what has been scrutiny from the right, the center, and the left. We talk about how we're divided in America, and people may be interested in this story for a range of different reasons, but this pressure is universal. And you can get a lot of people who follow this story, even in the sort of summer doldrums, on the same page that Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and this Justice Department under Donald Trump have blown it, that they have been secretive, they have issued falsehoods where they were either lying then or lying now, and the pressure's only building. Today, Republican Senator breaking with the usual MAGA loyalty that people have become accustomed to, demanding answers. New scrutiny on the DOJ, which has been quiet and secretive since its unusual jailhouse interview with Ms. Maxwell. And then a demand for accountability now coming from the people involved in all this who have been hurt the most, the victims and their surviving families in some cases. Because for all of the conspiracy theories and all of the talk and questions and sometimes downright ghoulish right-wing online sort of feeding frenzy, there was, of course, a very real set of horrific crimes here and real victims. In fact, just this week, we heard from one of the reporters who wrote a book about this, not for the politics, not for the conspiracy theories, but about the victims and how this system did mistreat and fail them. So this is going to the family of the late Virginia Giuffre, who was accused Epstein of sexually abusing her as a teen. And they are asking questions about why Trump is being so suspicious and secretive and what he knew and when he knew it. And Giuffre took her own life earlier this year. Her family pointed to the statement that Trump has given that they say is shocking when he told reporters that the reason, and remember, he's had plenty of time to get his story straight if he wanted to, but as of this week, the reason he says he booted Epstein from Mar-a-Lago was because, in the president's words, Epstein, quote, stole this other human being. You can't steal people, and you could chalk it up to a grammar mistake if it were isolated, but given the way the president has previously spoken about women and young women and what he knows about Epstein, it is something that the family is responding to, him saying that Epstein stole, quote unquote, Giuffre from the spa at Mar-a-Lago. Now, Giuffre had previously indicated in a lawsuit these events occurred around 2000 when she was 16 years old.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons that include from Virginia Jeffrey?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know, none whatsoever.
That's his view. Others disagree. The problem for Trump is manifold because, first of all, he had aides who said that the ties were cut with Epstein in 2004. Trump's new comments are a different timeline. So that raises a whole set of questions. In 2002, 2 years after President Trump says he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, he told New York Magazine, I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy, a lot of fun to be with. It's even said, which if you've covered Donald Trump, you know is a, quote, approach he often uses to say things he wants to say, but, quote, it's even said he, Epstein, likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Whatever you think of the content or substance of that quote, it also interferes with the timeline as mentioned. Giuffre's family says it makes us ask if he was aware of Epstein and Maxwell's criminal actions, given his statement 2 years later that his good friend Epstein likes women on the, quote, younger side, referencing that quote I just showed you from that article, quote, no doubt about it. Trump is unable to dodge all this stuff. He has tried to say the story is boring and has nothing to do with him. Everyone from MAGA to legal experts to victims' family members, as you see here, disagrees. They don't think it's boring or over, and he is getting questioned on it. This was late today.
You said that Jeffrey Epstein stole people from Mar-a-Lago. At the time, did you know why he was taking those young women, including Virginia?
No, I didn't know. I mean, I would figure it was ABC fake news that would ask that question, one of the worst. But no, I don't know really why. But I said, if he's taking anybody from Mar-a-Lago, he's hiring or whatever he's doing. I didn't like it, and we threw him out. We said we don't want him, at the place.
Now, that is his claim as of today, knowing everything he knows, including about how upset people are over this. Of course, this is not a traditional HR hiring dispute. This is not like a competing club that's hiring people, and at a business level, business people sometimes know that happens. Who among us hasn't seen someone in legitimate business who goes to work for another competitor in the same space? This is not that. This is the question of when did he know that the, quote, hiring, or the way that Mr. Epstein was using people, was in the worst oppressive criminal way, a sex trafficker. Giuffre's family says we and the public are asking for answers. Survivors deserve it. The family also referenced DOJ's unusual jailhouse interviews with Maxwell, who again was convicted of sex trafficking that affected their family member. Quote, if our sister could speak today, she'd be the most angered by the fact that the government, that's referring to the Trump DOJ, is listening to a known perjurer, a woman who repeatedly lied under oath, and will continue to do so as long as it benefits her position. Remember, the story's been going for a while. Plenty of victims' families have spoken out previously. We've quoted them. We've quoted the old interviews. Some have chosen to speak out again. But we are deep into this crisis, and it's taken this, including that unusual and suspicious jailhouse interview, to bring out these victims. So one, that matters for the reason that they are the most affected by the underlying case. And two, for Donald Trump, it's a reminder of just how poorly he's handled this and how the secrecy has brought out more people. Whatever you think of some of the conspiracy theorists, everyone has claimed that they care about the victims because Epstein's the bad guy, he's the villain, Maxwell is his enabler, his co-conspirator, convicted. And now the victims are coming out, and guess who they're mad at? President Trump. Here's a Republican senator today.
Do you know how amazing this razor is? In just 3 seconds, it can shave your beard smoother than your wife's skin, leaving no dark spots behind. This razor, developed jointly by Gillette and New York University, not only covers beards but also neatly trims hair and legs.
Do you think the recess will be enough time for all of this Epstein-related conversation to cool down, or does more need to be done?
You tell me, are you going to become disinterested after Labor Day?
No.
Are your voters disinterested? I mean, are they
Not at
calling you
all,
still?
and it's going to continue, guys. The best thing we can do is release the information we have and admit we don't have the information if we don't. That's the way you solve it.
We're showing you that's a Republican who is not spending time or energy trying to help Donald Trump. Indeed, what you saw there was the quick playbook we know from politicians. Hey, let me ask you back. We blame the media. And the media had a follow-up question. Okay, what about the voters? We can see the general interest in this. And then he gave it up. He did not help the White House further. He just said, yep, it's not going away. And the secrecy from Donald Trump on down to the Justice Department, the secrecy doesn't just make Trump look suspicious and guilty of some kind of malfeasance, maybe not back in the day crimes, that hasn't been proven, but certainly right now, why promise to release files and then hide them? Why do jailhouse interviews with perjurers who've already been interviewed? All of this is suspicious, and Republicans are not saying they're helping Trump bury it. They're saying it'll be here well past Labor Day. I am joined now by Jason Johnson, politics professor at Morgan State University, MSNBC analyst. It is heating up, and it's telling that nobody's left on the right or in MAGA to defend Trump on this.
And they shouldn't. They shouldn't. All right, this is, I don't want to be glib about this, but anybody who is remotely involved in this situation deserves condemnation, investigation. I don't care if you were one of the people who was grooming. I don't care, to quote your guest tomorrow, I don't care if you're trafficking or tricking. If you're involved in this, you should face consequences. And so it's a one time that you've actually seen Republicans come forward and say, yeah, this is kind of bad, and we're not going to cover for him on this. I don't know if that's going to have implications when it comes to votes or policies, but at least this moral instance, they seem to be showing back.
Yeah, and the families have been through a lot. We heard from an investigative author last night who I mentioned, or earlier this week, Ms. Brown, Julie Brown. And I want to play what she said about what these people have already been through.
I think that the Justice Department has failed multiple times, failed these victims. From the very beginning when Maria Farmer went to the FBI and nothing was done, which was way back in the early 2000s. So it's just more of the same.
Whoa, Maria Farmer. That's the Maria girl.
You know, from the very beginning when Maria Farmer went to the
Who was Maria Farmer?
Or you heard Jeffrey Epstein say to Donald Trump, she's not for you. What was your reaction to that? What was going on in your head at the time about that? What did you think that meant?
Right. Well, I already felt kind of intimidated because it was in a dark office and I was alone with my new boss, you know, to be, and this man that's a powerful businessman. And so I felt intimidated, but that's not why I reported him. I reported him because when Epstein came out of the office, I was making a face at him because I felt threatened. And so I went, and he kind of laughed and backed off. And as that was happening, Epstein walked out and said, oh, no, she's not here for you. And he emphasized, she's not here for you. And he said, come with me. And he escorted him into another office. And I was like, who's in there? And when he said, oh, I thought she was 16, I thought, is there a 16-year-old in there? Right? So what people need to understand is I'm not some crazy person who just reports people if they look at my legs or I'm in an office with them. But when someone is hanging out with a convicted or a pedophile, and I discover that pedophile has stolen my little sister, and then there's a powerful businessman that's making comments about me being my sister's age, then I think that the FBI needs to take a good look at it. And so that's why I asked that they do that. And
so Trump was meeting her sister?
Have really been kind of tormenting the victims. And so that's a separate topic. But
I want to ask you about that too.
So what I understood is that there was a girl in the other office who was 16. Oh, she's not here for you. Come with me. And he took her to one of his other rooms where maybe her sister was in there. Yeah, that was at the office, Epstein's office, and she was working for Epstein.
You know, and the part that just kept sticking with me is she's not for you. I just don't know what that meant. None of us know what that meant, but it is hard to get it out of your head. Let me ask you, I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell, and I want to ask you too about this, Jennifer, and thank you so much for being here with us. Todd Blanche, who is now the Deputy Attorney General, is meeting with Maxwell in jail today. And as you have referenced a couple of times here, so I just want to ask you more about it. She's been a little, and I started talking about this, lionized almost, like lifted up by some who are suggesting she could be a victim too, what is your reaction to that? What has been your reaction to that? Maria, let me ask you that. And then I wanted to ask you, Jennifer, just what your thoughts are on that meeting.
Right. So I've never met a more predatory, terrifying human being in my entire life. And neither had Virginia Giuffre, and neither has Annie or Anushka or many girls like Shantae Davies. There's hundreds of us that were preyed upon by Ghislaine Maxwell. She's a very dangerous person, and she threatened my life on many occasions. I've had to move and be in hiding because of this predatory child predator and just victim predator. So it's completely unacceptable for anyone to call her a victim. The woman is not a victim, she's a victimizer.
Let me ask you, that is an accurate and good way of putting it. Let me ask you, Jennifer, I mean, you've obviously been standing side by side here with Maria, but you are also a lawyer. And I want to know your thoughts about seeing Trump's former personal lawyer, who's now the Deputy Attorney General, go spend the day privately with Ghislaine Maxwell. He's going back tomorrow. What do you think about that?
This is deeply, deeply disturbing. Ghislaine Maxwell is not a reliable witness. To think that someone who is facing what she's facing the rest of her 20-year sentence and now might have an opportunity to change that dramatically by saying whatever she wants to say or needs to say to those in charge and in charge of her fate, it makes no sense, and she's not reliable. I find it also very disturbing to equate her with the victim. We've been dealing with the Epstein victims for many years, Maria and many others, and they're the people that should be focused on here. And there's absolutely no attention to the victims. For example, there was the issuance of this memorandum 2 weeks ago. That was issued without talking to a single victim.
Are you referring to the request for the grand jury files? That or a different request?
No, sorry, I'll make that. Yeah, no, the FBI and DOJ memorandum that says we will not release any files. There's nothing to see here. We're not going to charge anyone. This is over. And they made this conclusion, reached this conclusion without even talking to a single victim.
Which is completely outrageous. Let me ask you on that front. I mean, because there's also been this call to release the files from the grand jury, which are very narrow, and you can describe it further. But one of the steps they're supposed to take is reach out as a part of the victim notices process. Have they done that at all? Have you heard from them, Jennifer?
Not a peep, nothing. So they have not done their job in really truly trying to get those records. But this is really, those records are, even if they got them, are a spit in the ocean. They have 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence sitting in their offices. The grand jury materials could be somewhat interesting, but that's not the guts of it.
No, certainly not. Let me ask you, Maria, there's been some I don't know if it's progress, some push to subpoena the Epstein files, to learn more, that's moved through the House Oversight Committee yesterday. Do you see that as progress? Right. And if Congress asked you to testify publicly or behind closed doors, is that something you'd be willing to do?
I've been waiting to testify. David Boies had promised I would be able to testify, and it didn't happen. And now it looks like they're wanting Ghislaine to testify. It's my turn. Yes.
So you would be willing? Well, that's a significant thing. And
yes, absolutely. I'm waiting.
I hope somebody out there is watching and ask you. Let me ask you both, Jennifer. Let me start with you. If you're able to gain access to the Epstein files, you may, I guess, if Congress has them and if they've contacted you. First of all, let me ask: has Congress contacted you about sharing anything from what they've subpoenaed?
No, they have not.
Okay, I hope they do. Let me ask you then, if you were to gain access, I hope so too. Somebody watching better be contacting you. Let me ask you, if you were to gain access, and I certainly hope you do, if they follow through with this, and I think they will, what are you going to look for first?
Well, first we're going to look for Maria's records, which we've been asking for years. Yes. And in response, we got, for example, a recent memo that's from the government that says, we'll be back to you by November 2027. That is completely unacceptable. Jen, the reality of this is that this is one of the largest law enforcement failures in U.S. history. Maria went to the FBI, gave them all the information they needed, talked about child sex abuse, trafficking, child porn, gave them the information. If they had done their job, nearly 25 years of sex abuse and other crimes could have been avoided. And this is truly tragic.
On Anushka, there's the most beautiful young girls that were harmed. And I'm much older. I'm the den mother, and I'm mad. I'm the angry, bear. And I want those girls protected.
I'm sure they're grateful to have a den mother like you out there speaking so bravely on their behalf.
The old one.
Maria Farmer, Jennifer Freeman, thank you both so much for being out here and sharing your story.
Thank you, Jen.
It seems like it changes each time. It seems like it's part of the new one. All right, let's go. All right. We gotta go get Mikey. Maybe we'll get a hamburger. What day is today? I only type it in. All right, let's go. All right, let me get out of here. Done